Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Hilltop Pillbox here in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. And today we are going to do an Axis and Allies 1914 game, and we're going to implement a couple of things. I'm going to use my Italy rule, which means I roll a die. On turn 1, they have to get a 1 to be in the war. On turn 2, they have to get a 2 to be in the war, and so on and so on. Now, if they're not in the war, they're also not going to be making any money. I used to give them half cash, but we're not going to give them any money. So whatever they have is what they have. They can move it around inside their own country, but they cannot leave the sea zone or their borders. We're also going to be playing with two things for the Central Powers, two bonuses. Well, I guess it's kind of deductions for the Entente. One is the Russians are down 6 artillery. I got this from the good captain. He figured this is a pretty good balancing mechanism. And so we've knocked down all the 2 artilleries down to 1. If they had 1, they kept 1. But we've knocked all the 2s down to 1. The other thing is America will not be in the war until turn 4. So it's 1 turn extra. We also have this line here. So the sea zone 18 actually extends to here, which means Italy can't just go and snipe Albania. So that also protects the southern flank of Austria-Hungary quite nicely from any easy incursions. Of course, Greece is still open, but a little tougher slug. And the last thing will be Munich, that the Germans are going to be able to build infantry in Munich. I'm going to let them build infantry. Some people say they can build whatever they want. I've done that, and they've actually just steamrolled because then it's only 4 spots to Paris, and it's very tough for the French. So that's what we've got. We're going to see if that'll balance out this game anyway. I know one game does not solidify a balanced proposition, but we will give it a whirl. All right, so wish us luck. Here we go, turn 1, 1914. Let's see how the Russians do with a bit fewer guns. All right, here we go. Round 2 is about to begin. And the CCP is definitely looking stronger. And yeah, we'll see how it all works out, of course. Here on the Eastern Front, the Germans, of course, go into Poland. And the Austro-Hungarians went into Romania. I think they only lost one guy going into there. They went into Serbia and lost a couple of guys. Yeah, but holding strong everywhere, built a fighter. Russians decided to pull everybody back, knowing they're not going to get not that extra artillery. So we built 1 artillery for them and a fighter and some men. But definitely a defensive posture. And Ukraine is wide open, but that will give the Russians a chance to maybe put the boots to the Germans in Poland. But, of course, they don't want to do that if there's this many Austro-Hungarians coming through. All right, there are lots of them. It's going to be about 30 units or so you got to be careful. Ottomans have just kind of bulked up on their outskirts here in Mesopotamia. The British did not actually go into Persia this turn. They went into Arabia, captured that. A buck is a buck. But left Persia alone, just didn't quite have the horses to go in there. Over here in Africa, fairly similar stuff going on. So we're just going to have to wait and see how this all works out. The British go out and snipe a bunch of German stuff. The Germans going out and sniping a bunch of British stuff. And the French are coming along to hopefully try to do something about that. They, of course, go and activate Portugal. The German army, or the fleet came in here, lost a cruiser to the mines, and then one-shotted the Royal Navy and lost nothing in return. So they are sitting pretty. So Britain spent no money at home this turn and saved up some cash. So they've got close to $50 to spend next turn. And of course, the Canadian stuff is over here. I didn't want to get within range of these horrible German boats. So we just stayed over there for now. And the Americans didn't buy anything. They just took their $20 in payment. So fairly standard opening. Italy rolled a 3, so not in the war, but moving everything northwards and hoping to be able to answer. Now, when Italy goes to war, The rule that I've implemented is they roll their die at the end of the turn. But if they go to war, then they are able to do one non-combat move. So I'm going to put stuff in Tuscany, but it may come back down to Rome should they roll a 1 or a 2 on the next round. All right, round 2 coming up. What's going to happen to these big armies? All right, here we go, turn 3, and things are starting to heat up here. You can see the Germans are on the gates of Moscow here in a couple of territories, but the Russians were able to get rid of some of the Austro-Hungarians, but they still have the big stack down here. I don't know if it's big enough to engage there, but it might come down here and cause grief for the British. But then that would probably leave Moscow out of harm's way. So we will have to consider what to do here. Might do an end around, but we shall see. There are a lot of opportunities here for disaster for the Austro-Hungarians, which they seem to be good at. We also, though, have 2 planes for the Austro-Hungarians, so we might go after this Russian stack here and hit it with everything we got. The Germans up here, though, they do have what appears to be 17 units that they could send into Russia. Now, Russia is going to have a build, but they only have $19, so 6 units is all they're going to be able to put on. So these guys here will have to head home on the Russian turn, a good chunk of them anyway, to make sure Moscow does not end up being, well, that $6 ends up being contested. The Italians are in the war. Rolled a 2 this turn, so they are now in the war. So I moved some guys back to Rome in case I figured that the Austro-Hungarians might put a couple guys in the transport and just try to take a poke. So the Italians did a non-com into Egypt here to help. So you can see the Ottoman have made an issue of it, moving down into Transjordan with quite a bit of force, as well as into Mesopotamia to answer the British thrust here into Persia. And the British brought their little navy down from the Med to be able to shuttle over more guys. The Germans are still kind of cooped up here. They've got their 3 units here in Rhodesia and then here in British East Africa. And 1 guy remains in Nigeria, but he's a little balled up right now as the French have kind of bookended him into that territory. And yeah, that's where we're at right now. So the Germans typically, outnumbered, but they are not going quietly. America, once again, just took its money. So we're going into round 3. It means tanks are purchasable, and I think some of these nations might buy some. We'll let you know. Here we go. All right, as we head into turn 4, we know the Italians are at war and everything, and here's where we have left things off in Russia. The Russians were successful. They went down to Ukraine, and last turn, as we saw, and then this turn, the Austro-Hungarians attacked and went in, and actually they did okay. They're actually, I can't remember if there was anybody in there, but the Ukrainians, the Hungarians went in there. And long story short, the Russians were able to defeat them on the Russian turn. They did lose their aircraft, but the Austro-Hungarians didn't have enough bodies to hang on to their aircraft on the Russian counter. So the Germans are here in Livonia in a decent number, but the Russians could possibly come out and try to challenge them, but not sure if that's really a good idea. But the CP has seemed to have fizzled out here. There's not much going on. Possibly because the Italians are in, so I started moving things the other way for the Austro-Hungarians, but it does not look promising all of a sudden for the CP. Down here, the Ottoman are holding tough. They're getting 19 every round, but the British have finally been able to get enough forces together here in Persia. You can see there's nothing left in India. I'll show you why in a moment. Down here, a little bit of a stagnant front. I think I probably could have attacked Egypt this turn, but then I think things might be out of place. And hey, if they attack and don't get the dice rolls, yeah, it could go sideways. So But we'll reconsider that next round. Over here, the Italians have bulked up and are trying to hold the line against the Austro-Hungarians. An attack is imminent, though, I think, and but without their tanks, it might be a bit foolhardy. So I might bring up the tanks first. But as you know, tanks don't have their special ability of absorbing a hit when they're on defense. So up here, the Germans came into Alsace and Lorraine here, and Lorraine, I guess, is what it is, and they whooped the French. Were able to clean them right out. And so the French brought everybody they had. The Miracle of the Marne is trying to happen again, a little south of the original happening, but there it is. And the Germans have a good stack over here going down the coast. The British have a tiny expeditionary force that is about to get steamrolled up in Picardy. But the reason why the Brits didn't build in Persia is because they built themselves 5 transports. So they now have 6 transports so they can land 12 units on the continent each round. So that might be enough to stave off disaster. But right now the Germans are looking pretty strong. And Paris is definitely not well supplied. If the Germans can punch through Picardy, or pardon me, I forget what this place is called here, but if they can punch through it, it is over. The French have hurriedly marshaled together their transport force, trying to bring some troops up. Down here in Africa, the Germans have 1 guy there and 2 guys down here. That's all they've got left. The British have them fairly surrounded. Not much for it. Probably play defense at this time. And up here, the French were able to take out the German contingent in Nigeria, but did lose a man doing it. But now, as it always happens, they start to gobble things up. And I know some people play where Africa is not even a thing, where they just say, no, you know what, we're not gonna have Africa in our game, and the border is cut right at Transjordan. I can't help but think that's an advantage for the CP because there's a lot more Entente money down here than there is CP money. But the Americans are in the war now, and they have done their first build, and so they'll have 6 men and 6 artillery coming across the waves here. And yeah, will it be in time? We shall see. And I didn't mention it at the beginning, but a lot of people play that you can't do anything with the strict neutrals. So I might do that. There's so many rules I've changed or adapted here. One more probably won't make a ton of difference. So we will likely do that. Plus, I think this is where it's happening, folks. I think this is where the game's going to get decided. So if the Germans can get on their horses and get in there before the British start landing a ton of stuff, that could be it. And this turn will let us know. All right, here we go. Turn 4. Turn 4. Can you believe this is where the war is on turn 4? Insane. Moving pretty quickly for a World War I game. All right, let's see what happens on the Western Front, because it ain't quiet. Heading into turn 5, and the pressure has been alleviated a bit off of Moscow. Was able to head out there and really put the boots to the Germans, but they just evacuated a little bit and pulled back to Poland out of Livonia. Down here, a little bit of a stalemate happening in the south. Nobody has enough to do much, and they don't want to pull your troops away from these zones because they're worth a lot of money. And so even the Turks are going to send a couple of guys up this round. And yeah, not sure if they're going to help much. But the Turks are doing pretty well in their own territory. I forgot to flip this over, actually, but they went on the Turkish turn, so the Brits wouldn't get the money for it the last round anyway. The Turks did go back, did not want to have any foolhardy attacks, but they did attack across into Egypt, and it was not a good attack. They killed 2, but they lost 5 or 6. And yeah, that always hurts. I think it was 5 actually, but still, rough go for them. The Central Powers have now been expurgated from Africa. They are gone. Up here, of course, with the Italians in the war, the Austrians took a poke at Venice, and a big stalemate there. Not a lot of hits, actually, in the first battle. In the Italian counter, though, a lot more bloodshed. Knocked them down to 3 units, but here come the tanks. So, not a lot of punch, though. Just going to have 4 infantry, 3 artillery, and 4 tanks. So even if everybody gets a hit, which they won't, that would barely be enough. So, should be an interesting thing going on. Over here, lots of artillery, of course, and some tanks following up. So the Russians should be wary. Speaking of being wary, the Parisians, they retreated out of Burgundy. That's the place I couldn't remember last turn. And they went into Paris and put their build in Paris and landed a couple guys in Brest and going to bring them into Paris. So they left a guy in Burgundy, of course, to keep it so the Germans couldn't attack Paris this round. So the Germans are here. The British landed 12 units to attack the Germans here. And so the Germans got their 4 shots with their artillery, got 4 hits before the landing even happened. Then the other 8 guys died. So not a good job by the British Expeditionary Force. But they had to do it, hoping to hold up the Germans. But it did not go well at all. They barely have enough guys to land this time. And it's taking most of their economy. And that is why they're not building anything down here in India. So there could be an opportunity here for the Ottoman Empire. And the Brits do have to be careful. Because if they lose India, that's going to be a really bad sign for the Entente. So here we are. This is where it's all going to come down to. Not this turn, of course, because the French still have a guy in Burgundy. But if there were any way for the Austrians to can opener that, they would. Let me know in the comments if you ever do a can opener in this game. I know it's not like what you can have in other games where tanks are blitzing around the map and whatnot, but it is interesting how if there were some Austro-Hungarian stuff in Piedmont, they could take out the guy in Burgundy, and that would free up the Germans to do an assault directly on Paris. So let me know if that ever works out for you. Oh, the German fleet is gone. The French fleet came up and, did its thing. 2 battleships and a cruiser, took out 4 subs, a cruiser, and a battleship. Germans just could not get too many hits. So in the grand scheme of things, they got 4 hits. But the French got a lot more. So the British could use that to go pick up the guys in the capital and dump them off and watch them die. So maybe it wasn't a good idea. But anyway, anything to slow up the Germans from getting into Paris, the City of Lights. All right, we will be right back with turn 5. It's getting interesting. Round 6 coming up, and getting that feeling that it's looking like another Entente victory. We'll show you more as we go along here, but you can see the Germans are 2 spaces away from Moscow. The Russians will likely retreat on their turn, leave a guy in Poland though to stall them. So it's 3 rounds till they can actually even attack Moscow, let alone take it. In the Ukraine, there's enough stuff here to take out Romania or Sevastopol. Not both, though, although maybe they get lucky with the dice. Down here, the Brits and the Ottomans had a good fight, and the Ottomans certainly came out on top. And the Brits had to... Well, we built that there knowing a fight was coming. It's a good thing we did. Again, the Turks were kicked out of Egypt this round. The British did an amphibious assault and survived it, along with all the guys that were in Egypt, and were able to kill all the Turks that were there. And so that's where we are with the Ottomans. They're collecting their 16. And that's pretty good for them this late in the game, to be collecting 16. But Russia is holding on. Every game they do it. Over here, got a bit of a stalemate, and up in Trieste, Venice, and the Italians did a nice counterattack. Likely going to get beat up this turn, but should have enough time to be able to bulk up the defenses before the Austro-Hungarians can really muck it up for them. Germans planting here, but building another 11 infantry here. So there's 25 infantry headed towards Gay Paris here. So the Germans do indeed now own Burgundy. But if you look, the Americans have landed, the British have landed. They each landed 12 units. That's 24 more units. And with the French, there's just no way Paris is going to fall and be held. It's not going to fall, for one. It'll be contested. And I think the Germans can continue to feed it. And if they can continue to pump in, a number of infantry every turn, it might last quite a while, because the Americans didn't do a build again, because we're going to build up again to where we can dump off 12 units, so which we'll be able to do in a couple of rounds. And the Brits might start chipping away at this now that we realize Paris is probably safe. So that'll give the Germans something to shoot at on their way to the City of Lights. But it's just got that feel to it, folks. There's just not enough money for the Central Powers. I think the Austro-Hungarians could use another probably $6 to $10 a turn. Germany could use another $6 to $10 a turn. The Ottomans certainly could. I mean, Britain hasn't been building down here at all this game, really. Not much at all. And they're still fighting them off. And the Russians are able to fend off the Austro-Hungarians and the Germans by themselves. So, yeah. Now, maybe I just suck at the CP, because I know other people who play this game, they play the CP, and, we win every time. I'm not sure how. The math doesn't check out unless they've got some very interesting house rules that they employ. I just don't see the CP coming out on top with the out-of-box rules. So this does help. And keeping Italy out of the war, I think, does help. And also broke, not making anything. What was the other thing we did? Well, the Germans building in Munich helps, right? It keeps their infantry shuck going. So maybe this has to be basically, you can build anything, right? It's unrestricted building in Munich might be the way to go. So you can build your tanks there, you can build your artillery and whatnot. So maybe we'll do that next game. I am going to play a couple more rounds here, but I don't know. I just can't see the Germans fighting 3 economies here, even though the Americans are only 20, and the British, even if they just spend 20 up here, and the Parisians, they're around 20 right now, 22. It's, that's more than what Germany's making by far. Germany's in the 40s, and that would be $60 they're fighting. Now, not every round, because of course the Americans aren't dropping stuff off, but every 3 or 4 rounds, the Americans are going to drop off quite a load of units, and that might be enough to just keep the Germans out of Paris, because they have to take Paris or London, and they're not going to be taking London. So they have to take Paris, and they have to take Moscow, or Rome. But they do have to take Paris. Paris has to be one of the 2 that they take. So we're going to keep slugging away at it. I had a brief glimmer of hope, and that was shattered. So we'll see, though. We'll see what happens over the next couple of rounds. But it's looking like a CP loss yet again. All right, turn 6 is over. Turn 7, it's where we're headed. Some interesting things happened. We'll give you a little shakedown, breakdown here. We've got the Germans pushing now and coming towards Moscow. Moscow is ready to receive them, but not sure how long it'll hold out. Depends on how much stuff we want to send that way. You can see the Turks are sending a meager force up north even, but the Russians were able to wrest control of Sevastopol away from the Austro-Hungarians. So Austro-Hungary is losing a little bit of income there. Down here, the British retreated into Persia, giving up Mesopotamia, and India has some tanks here, so they are definitely tooling up to head back in. Arabia is taken by the Turks, and they have brought a few guys over here, but after the debacle of the last attack likely not going to try again. They'll just hold right now. It's not worth losing a bunch of stuff just to try to gain $2. Over here, Italy has been kicked out of Venice and withdrew from Tuscany and put their build on in Rome. And now it's just going to be a march to Rome for the Austro-Hungarians. Nothing can really be done to stop that. Up here, the Germans are in Paris. Not by themselves, mind you. Oh, these guys are supposed to be. I forgot to move them in. Not by themselves, mind you. And in the rules, you can go into a place and not declare that you're fighting. So the Allies are definitely going to play defense. And yeah, there's a lot more Allies than there are CP in there, or more Entente than there are CP. And the British landed a decent expeditionary force here of 10 units. So they were able to send one of their transports westward to go maybe pick up a couple of crazy Canucks. And the Americans have put their fresh build on, so they will be heading back across with 16 units in a couple of rounds. So I do think this is a lost cause at this point. I do think that Moscow can fall, and I do think that Rome will fall after some time, but I'm not convinced that Paris will fall anytime soon. Indeed, the Germans now, all these infantry have to turn and attack this British group, because if they don't, the British will go in and take the Ruhr and start spreading out in Germany proper, which will be a problem. So I think it's all over but the crying, but we're going to keep playing. I got nothing better to do on a Saturday here, so, which is cool because I've been crazy busy. So thanks so much for watching right now, though, folks. I appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying the game. And I know I'm creeping towards 1 million views. I was just a few hundred away. And yeah, when I get to 1 million views, I think I'm going to have a nice giveaway. So if you're the type of person who actually watches the videos through, you just heard that. And I'll tell you right now then. I want you to send me an email at hilltoppillbox@gmail.com. Send me an email and say, I want my name put in to the contest, because it's going to be a pretty good giveaway. I think you'll really like it. So when I hit 1 million views, if you've sent me an email to hilltoppillbox@gmail.com, then you will be put into the contest. It's not a straight up win. There's going to be a bit of maybe a who will win or something to do it, but it'll be entertaining. But I think you'll be pleasantly pleased by the prize. All right, here we go, folks. We're going on to round 7. Oh boy, here we go. Well. Let's see what's going on. Uh-oh. Yes. The Hun is at the gates, and Moscow's pretty thinned out. Yeah, the Germans got some good dice and were able to take out the entire Russian contingent. And they decided to come up here, the Ottomans did, because why the heck not? Let's come on up, see if we can't add some pressure. But that leaves Mesopotamia wide open, so the Brits will walk in and take that for 3. But they might even just send the rest of their stuff up here to beat up this Sevastopol army up here. We'll see. Not much going on over here. It just doesn't make mathematical sense. But Austria-Hungary, do they have enough to take a poke at Rome right now? They probably will, just to keep that money out of the hands of Rome. Plus they got a tank to absorb 1 hit. They got a fighter that's going to give their artillery shots at 4s. So I was looking a little bleak for the Italians at this time, and a steady stream coming this way, because it looks like the Russians are going to be busy just trying to save their own skin this round. Over here, the Germans, oh my goodness, they sent in 22 guys, and they got 10 hits with 22 at 2. And that was all the British had there, was 10 guys. So they wiped them out and took Belgium, and only sustained 7 losses. So there you go. Something like that. 8 losses maybe? I don't know. But they did all right. Paris just is a big mess, and no one's going to do any attacks from the Entente side, because they do not match the Germans. And the Germans eventually might have enough, so maybe it ain't over yet. But of course, here comes some Brits, and some Americans coming over, and these Americans came down south. So we'll keep playing and see what the dice tell us. But the Germans are kind of a step behind now, so they got to get things going. But if Italy is taken, and if Moscow is taken, if these guys have no natural enemies, although the Brits spent all their money down here this last turn, they are a number of turns away from really threatening Constantinople. And yeah, they made some decent cash this time. They made $23 this turn as the Turks, so they're doing okay. Yeah, so things might be tough for Britain. Plus, they do want to keep sending stuff this way to annoy the Germans. But time will tell if that's going to be effective or if it's even really needed. I might throw in the towel if we just can't get the stuff to the front fast enough. All right, on with round 8. Will Rome still be with us? Round 9 coming up, and yeah, there it is, folks. They went in and they got all they needed. They took 6 hits, but there's 6 tanks, so no damage to the Germans. So they will be heading somewhere, probably south. The Ottomans have decided to put everything they've got into fighting the British, and the British have responded in kind. So the British have some options here, and will continue to build some stuff down here. The Turks may take a look at Africa because it is tough for anybody to get much stuff over there. Rome is under siege. The Americans came over, dropped over 4 things to try to help out, but it is well and truly under siege now, and a steady stream of angry Austro-Hungarians coming down the peninsula, down the boot, as it were. And over here, just more stuff coming in. The Germans did have to go up into Picardy and take care of the British up there. The British, little cheeky move, landed behind in Belgium and sniped that, but they will be dispatched with extreme prejudice here in just a moment. And as we can see, we do have quite a train here. We got 15 plus 22, so 37, or 16, I guess, plus 22, so 38 infantry heading towards Paris. The French are down to $14 and or 16, I think, and but they could be down further if the Germans decide to take up residence around the area. The Americans landed another 12 units here and have just collected money, so they didn't build anything over there. All right, that was a quick rundown, but that's what we're going to have now because Russia's out. Not much going on with the Italians except defense. And same with the French, just defense. So we'll see if they can hold on. Turn 10 coming up. Okay, kind of getting down to decision time here, but we'll show you what's going on. You know what's going on up there, I suppose. And as the Germans have scooped up all of the former Russian territory, or most of it, still Finland left, so they'll go get that. Might snipe a buck out of Kazakhstan here. And the Ottomans are bracing for the British storm. You can see there's a lot of stuff coming this way. But the Ottomans were not strong enough to hit the British last turn. Probably won't be this turn either. But with a little help from their friends, they might be. So the British do have to take care. They may have a decision to make as to who they go after shortly. Over here, Italy is down to their last 6 units, and not long for this world. So that actually puts a little bit of spring in the step of the Germans. And you can see they do have quite a bit of stuff here heading in. They are outnumbered in Paris a little bit, but shortly they're going to be dropping off some big stacks. And eventually they're going to have to pull the trigger on this. So the Americans, again, didn't build anything this turn, but they will next, and they'll have enough to put quite a bit of stuff into the water. So that's where we're at, folks. I think Italy's done this turn. They're only making $4 right now anyway, so it's not like they're causing that much strife for anybody in particular. The Ottomans are doing okay, and a little bit of help from the German Expeditionary Force over here. But the real story will be Paris. And if it falls and is not recaptured by the end of the turn, the Germans will win the game. Well, the Central Powers will win the game. Let's see if we can get that far. Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. What a difference one turn can make. So, yeah, on both sides of the board, we've had some real swings. So the British came north here and wiped out the entire Ottoman army and a good chunk of the German army. So, yeah, that was a disaster. Plus, they only lost a couple of things because they've got 7 tanks to absorb all those hits, which is quite handy. And then they've got a few more here. So they got 10 tanks on the board right now down here in this corner, which spells certain doom if they're on the attack. On the defense, of course, they don't absorb hits. So the Ottoman will have to time this correctly in order to get the most bang for their proverbial buck, as it were. And over here in Rome, it has fallen to the Austro-Hungarians. So now we have 2 of the Central Powers out. We now just have France, UK, and the US. But France is under siege. They are not collecting much money at all. They're only putting on a handful of units each turn, typically 3 or 4. And the Germans went in last turn and slaughtered 23 of them. And they lost, I think, 13 of their own. So that was that's something the French, they can't withstand that sort of loss. Americans landed another 10 units, which is helpful, and the British landed a small expeditionary force. You can see the Brits are now building everything up here because they don't really care about the Turks at this point. We got to get in here and stop the Germans. And on that note, the Americans are over here doing their thing, bringing more things over to cause some grief. But as we look at the board, the CP have really turned things around. And unless the British are able to dispatch down here, it could be over shortly. Now, I don't even know if this really makes a difference at this point, though. I'm wondering if the juice isn't worth the squeeze. But if they can dispatch the Germans, since we're not playing with the Russian Revolution rule, they can go up here and liberate Moscow, if my understanding is correct. So if the Germans stay here this round, they're likely going to die. And then that would mean that the British would have 1-2 turns to liberate, which means in 3 turns, the Russians would be back. But in 3 turns, if we look at what's marching towards Paris, it's a whole lot of bad news. And these guys here are actually in Burgundy. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, so 22 infantry about to come in, and they are definitely going to attack. Because they're not losing any artillery at this point. They're just losing infantry, and they've got infantry to spare. But it ain't over till it's over. And we're going to carry on at round 11 coming up. What's going to happen in the City of Lights? Okay, folks, so here on turn 11, this is what's left in Paris. And they took a bite out of the Germans, but the Germans wiped out all the Americans and some of the French and all the British. They got like, oh man, it was close to 40 hits there. So I look at the board here and I see that no one else can come to the rescue of France. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to have a little bit of fun here. I'm going to just handhold the camera, and we're going to roll out the last 2 battles for Paris. So I'll do this one, then I'll put on the meager French build, and then we'll probably watch it go down in flames. So they don't have nobody has a plane here. So what we've got is we've got 6 infantry and 3 artillery, which means we have 3 infantry at 2. Oh, I mean 3? No. All right. And that means we have 6 at 3 with 3 artillery and 3 infantry supported. Oh, there's the 2. And that's going to drop to a 5. Not that one. That's going to drop to a 5. Okay, so we just have the 1 hit on the French. So if only the Germans had been so anemic last turn. So the French right now have 9 artillery and 6 infantry. So that would be 15 at 3. So it's like the Austro-Hungarians are kind of doing what they normally do in this game all of a sudden. They've done all right for themselves thus far. I haven't even really mentioned it. So 15 at 3. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so that'll take care of 5 and 2. So just 1 infantry and 1 artillery for the Austro-Hungarians left in Paris. And then if we look at what the French have for money, sorry, the board's a little messy right now, but they've got the 1, 2, then they've got the 4 that they always have. So that's 6, 8, 10, 12, and Brest is 2 more for 14. So they have 14. That's what they picked up last time. So we're not going to bother doing anything with artillery and whatnot. We're just going to give them because they're not going to attack. They're not going to attack. So they're just going to add 4 guys, save $2, and off we go. All right, so coming around then, we've got the Germans. Actually, I just made a mistake. Wrong! I made a faux pas. Because the French don't go before the Germans go before the French. So the Germans are coming in. They're going to be bringing in all of these guys here. We had that brief stall of infantry, so these guys are a little bit behind, but they are bringing in some more artillery. I'm just going to pause it and I'll set up the battle. All right, here's the battle for Paris, and it kind of looks like a done deal, but let's roll it out anyway. So we start with the fighter, and the German fighter rolls. You need a 1 or a 2 to get a hit, nothing there. All right, so we're going to start with our artillery here. We have got 13 at 4. 13 at 4. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13 at 4. All right, let's see what we can do with our 4s. All right, so these 5s are going to leave. 5, 6, 5. All right, so it looks like we got ourselves 8 hits. 8 hits. So we're just going to put that right there. 8 hits. That's all the infantry and then 3 of the artillery. So they've got six hits left that we need to get on all of these. So we got 13 at 3. So there's 5, 10, 13 at 3. Just need 5 hits. And we got it. We definitely got it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's plenty. So that's going to end Paris, but we're going to let them defend themselves to the last. So these are all at 3. So that is 5, 10, 14. 14 total. I may have miscounted on one of those, but I'm not sure the dice rolls matter too much at this point. We had plenty of hits there. So that's 8, 10, and then we'll add 4 more. So these are all at 3 for the French. For the Gloire and the Honor, the Elan. So we've got a good roll. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 out of 14. 2 more than the bubble. And we'll just round up. We'll get rid of 10 Germans. And there is nobody in range to even be able to help the Germans. Even if the Brits had landed, they could land a bunch of stuff in Picardy last round. But France just lost all of her money. Yeah, it's over, folks. It's over. There's just too much stuff here. And the British may have been able to come in and attack, but it would have been with a whopping 12 units. And we just got a ton of hits with the Germans that we had. So I think it's a done deal. I think it's a done deal. Nothing for it but the crying at this point. And that is it. So the CP, they do pull off a victory for the first time in a few years here at the Hilltop Pillbox. and we want to congratulate them for that. We know we kind of tilted the field a bit for them, but hey, good for them. All right, folks. Well, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And don't forget that invitation I gave in the middle. Please send me an email and just say that you're interested in what I was talking about, and I'll make sure you are a part of it. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for watching the whole video. It really helps me out. And when we get to a million views, good things are going to happen. So hug your loved ones. Thank your friends for playing. And as always, may those dice be with you.